Spider-Man also came back to theaters this weekend, didn't it, Andre?
It did indeed, because there is a re-release of Spider-Man. What is now out is the super duper extended director's cut, which is a total of 11 minutes longer. And that's what I did yesterday. I went to see Spider-Man No Way Home. And more or less, this is actually the first time I see the movie from beginning to end in one go. I never saw it during its initial release.
What? You got to see No Come Home before me? No, just kidding. So what'd you think? What'd you think of No Way Home? Now that you finally got to see it.
Overrated.
Too late. You saw it too late.
No, exactly. That's exactly the thing, because it was a worldwide event, right?
Yeah.
That Norway was being kept out of because our distributor, SF Norway, are fucking little pissants. And because they decided that, oh, there's some local restrictions going on right now. So instead of working within those restrictions like everyone else does, we're just going to delay the movie for like 3 months here. Completely irrespective of the fact that we're the only ones in the world that will be doing it. So we're just going to just take Norway out of this worldwide event. And that's what they did. And here you would think that my countrymen would be have the fortitude to punish them by not going to see it when they did. But no, by and large, my countrymen are pissants too. So they still went to see it and thereby rewarded them for their decision. But some of us decided that if we can't see it when everyone else does, then fuck it. It's not worth seeing later because then the whole experience is ruined. And that was kind of like my mentality. So through no fault of the movie its own, due to a purely local condition, I never went to see it. Like, I got detailed summaries of everything in it. So I basically knew the movie by heart without actually having seen it in theaters. And now I finally did go get to see it with the more fun stuff version. And my thoughts on it is that I think it's a little bit overrated. I mean, yeah, it's great. It's like cool payoff and everything like that. But this version right here, this movie that is 11 minutes longer.
I thought it was only 5.
Right,
but okay.
about no, it's 5 minutes more of Spider-Man scenes, but the whole thing is 11 minutes longer. And I would say that it's right about 11 minutes too long. I don't think that, based on what I've seen of the original theatrical cut and this cut right here, it seems to be Spider-Man 2.1 all over again. Remember that? Back in 2004.
Just indulgent scenes, yeah.
The perfect sequel in Spider-Man 2. And then just because director's cut and extended cuts were like the thing of the day, they added some scenes that had been cut for a reason back into the movie again. And those scenes, they made the movie a little bit longer, but they didn't really add anything because there's like one scene in an elevator where the comedic timing is perfect as it was because they ended it where it did. But then they just kept on extending it, and it carried on and on for longer.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that comedian, but yeah. No, yeah. You're right, Andre. I know what you're talking about. Like, I could care less sometimes whether I'm watching the 2.1 version or the regular one because they're both good, but you're right. Like, the added stuff added nothing. Like,
I would say this is the same thing here because what I actually have seen, I have seen the Spider-Man interactions before, and here those scenes are longer. But I don't think they are better because they were cut at just the right place for maximum effect. Whereas here, when you just extend them, it goes from being funny to being awkward. The one thing that kind of did make sense are like the scenes in the beginning of the movie where you have Betty Brandt doing reporting at the school. That kind of made sense because that ties into the new post-credit scene. Because the original theatrical cut, the post-credit scene of that was the teaser trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, that's out now.
Right.
So here, instead, you have a post-credit scene, which basically, no spoiler alert, which basically shows that, yes, Peter Parker is obscured from pictures and recordings and stuff like that. That was the whole point of it, that he's not present even in recordings. So that kind of like solved something of a plot hole in the theatrical, and it made sense for that reason. But other than that, I honestly think that the theatrical version of the film is better. Also,
yeah.
I think that in the moment when Tobey Maguire Spider-Man shows up, I think they use an alternate take.
Yes, I've heard there were some alternate takes, yeah.
And the alternate take that they use here is significantly worse than the one in the theatrical cut. Because in the theatrical, you basically see like the body. You don't see his face until he comes through, and it's like this huge reveal. Whereas here, I guess they must have assumed, oh, everyone has seen this movie already. There's no surprise. So we're just going to show him right off the bat, completely anticlimactic, just like walking through the portal, and it was just a bad take. It just ruined the epicness of the moment. So by and large, I will say that this extended cut of the movie isn't worth it, with the exception of the Betty Brant scenes, because they set up the new post-credit scene, and that was a worthwhile addition.
Well, in its defense, and I'm not like going to sit here and like trying to defend it like, blah, 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 blah. No, what I'm saying is they never did advertise that this was supposed to be some like super director's cut. It's called the More Fun Stuff edition. Right, so literally, they're basically telling you what they're adding back in is the stuff that got cut out for a reason. So that
you know what they should have called it.
I will say that in that defense.
Please let us get us to $2 billion at the box office.
Yeah, to be fair, that's probably should. Yeah, in an actual like fair world, let's say. But no, at this point, what I'm hearing though is it's not probably worth picking up again on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, that's what I'm hearing here, because that's what they're going to do, and this is going to be the Christmas version that gets released. So. Outside of the possible, the only scene that sounds like it's worth a crap is, like you said, the Betty Brant stuff. And the rest of it's going to wind up on YouTube anyway. So I don't really see a reason in picking this up unless they load it up with some extra special stuff at this point. Because to me, I hate to say it, the 4K of this was not one of my best ones. I thought it was one of the worst looking 4K films. It looks really drab, and you can tell it's up converted from 2K. But anyway, that's a whole technical side of things. So for me as a fan, unless it's a good version to own, I don't really see the sense in sticking another $30 into it.
Yeah, and I will say that the definitive version of this movie is a fan edit that takes the Betty Brant stuff and adds that into the theatrical
cut.
Yeah.
Chris, you were going to say something. It seemed like, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Hal Sparks is the name of that actor in the elevator.
Thank
you. I knew it, but I couldn't think of his name. Hal Sparks.
That scene is so great because nothing happens and it's just funny. It just works.
Yeah.
So, I know Hal. He's an awesome person, and he always gets recognized for that scene. And he was also in a TV show called Queer as Folk. So,
that was Showtime, HBO.
Yeah, one of those. But yeah, I when I didn't go see the extended edition. I'm sure Andre was also partially disappointed because it's been built up for nearly a year, everything that happens, and there were no surprises for you. So look, I'd rather
this is exactly right. That has to be kept in mind. Like the whole movie has been soured for me forever because of the Norwegian distributor.
Yeah, so
which is not the movie's fault. So I know that's unfair, and that's something that must be kept in mind. Which is why I always begin by saying that, because you're going to get a biased view. I know it's biased, and it's not the movie's fault.
But also, like when that movie came out, movie theaters were not entirely back. Remember, like those movies a year ago, Shang-Chi, Eternals, among others, they all tanked. They all underperformed at the box office, and of course, they touted these numbers are great for this period of time, and people were possibly declaring movie theaters dead, right? And then Spider-Man No Way Home comes out and just blows all expectations, theaters were packed. I saw it in San Diego to screening with Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic. He bought a bunch of seats. The theater was packed. It was insane. It was like, oh yeah, people want to go to the movies when there's a movie they really want to go see, which wasn't necessarily Shang-Chi or Eternals. So it was the beginning of the resuscitation of the theatrical business. And now we're in a shortage of good films to the point where we're re-releasing movies. I mean, in the last month, Jaws, E.T., Star Trek 2 is out.
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan. Yeah.
Wrath of Khan. I mean, first of all, I'm in heaven. This is great. But it goes to show.
It's like 1982 all over again.
I love it. But it stands in contrast to like, yeah, the big tentpole blockbuster films being released by studios now, people don't like them. They just don't like them. And I think when you see, it's like, oh, this is what that kind of movie is supposed to be. So it doesn't surprise me that, Top Gun was number one at the box office this week. And I know we're going to get to it, but think about it. It was number one on Memorial Day weekend, number one on Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
I think that's like a new, and I know the box office was low this weekend anyways, but that's got to be some new record. I've never heard of a movie. I mean, other than Titanic, which was number one, that was a phenomenon.